Hi, I'm Mika Apichatsakol, and I'm here today with Nigel Oakins. We've just launched a little something called Koktail Magazine, and we're here today to have a cocktail conversation.
We are.
So Cocktail Conversation is something we're planning to do once a month, where we pick a fabulous location in the city, a place that serves great alcohols as well. And speaking of that, I think our cocktails are here.
This is such a good idea, isn't it? We get a free cocktail every month.
So we really just named our magazine Cocktail so that we could do this.
Thank you. Right, cheers. Well, I think this is quite tasty, isn't it? Get us in the mood for a discussion. Well, we got to thank. Let's thank the Sukhothai Hotel, who've been kind enough to give us this first location. Highly recommend this cocktail of the month.
So what are we going to talk about in our cocktail conversation today?
Well, I think we've just launched, here it is, you've shown it there, Mika, Koktail Magazine. It's a print magazine. I think that's a story in itself right now. And there are lots of varied stories and a ton of variety, and so there's plenty to get through here. We can just have a kind of random chat about what we put into this magazine and why you as the editor chose the stories that you chose. Maybe I can ask you a question first.
Sure.
You know, we talk about advocacy in this magazine. Mm-hmm. So also on the Cocktail website and on the social media, advocacy is one of the strands that runs through everything we do. Why are we doing that?
Well, you and I obviously have a little bit of a background in luxury lifestyle magazine.
Yeah.
But I also think that while we were doing that, we always felt like there was an element in what we did that was missing, sort of the heart and soul, right? And I think even while we were doing luxury lifestyle, we thought that, and we were like, wouldn't it be great to be able to talk about things like, I don't know, like veganism or sustainability and stuff like that that's not really covered in luxury lifestyle magazines. So when we were given the opportunity to now do whatever we wanted to do, we were like, well, that should be front and center. That should be something that we cover because people, well, first, we want to tell those stories.
Yeah. But
second, we also think that people out there want to listen to them.
Totally. I mean, for me, every brand, every publisher, every media owner, every marketing person on the planet gets it. That you have to be looking at, you know, what are you doing that is, which is good, what is good for society and what your product and your company is doing. Everyone's talking about it, but in the media world, it's really hard to do that every day. I mean, even now, you know, every single new brand releases, you know, if it's a hotel, it will be with a beautiful sunset view and an infinity pool and the best chef in the world. They don't really focus that on their marketing campaigns. And so we thought, let's do what we set out to do and carve the stories around those different, you know, the different thoughts. So well, I thought one of the interesting things you did when we used to get kind of early on, we started to get the first PR companies contacting us. You know, rather than just saying, well, sorry, we just talk about responsible luxury, you know, and that your launch isn't really going down that line. Rather than just ignoring those requests, we followed up with a, you know, well, you know, we're not covering that kind of thing. Do you have anything around responsible luxury? And people were really engaging, and they said, yeah, we certainly do, and, you know, we're going to send you this, you know. So we're starting to change people's minds. You know, tell us about, I mean, if you look at the magazine, which is a favourite story of yours that actually embodies what we're talking about there?
Well, I would have to say one of my favorite stories, one of the stories that really stays with me is the story on Paralympians, Thai Paralympians, which actually was your idea in the pitching room.
Thank you.
In the pitching room, you're the one who said that you wanted to read more about the Paralympians, which the Paralympics had just ended at that time. And so I was then tasked with finding the writer to write this story. And I happen to know a very fabulous writer. I have followed her stuff for years. We're actually friends. And I happen to know that she very passionately covered the Olympics and the Paralympics as a news reporter. She is a news reporter. So I approached her and I was like, would you like to write a story about this? And we kind of gave her the parameters. We kind of told her, like, we're kind of looking for this. But she kind of took the assignment and just ran with it and came back with something that we could have never expected. We did not expect the little incredible anecdotes that were featured in the story. And yeah, that's one of the things I love about working with contributors rather than people who are kind of in your team and you tell them, like, please write this story. You kind of collaborate with people who are very into a certain niche and you tell them to tell that story to us. And that's kind of what we did in this whole magazine. We have so many different contributors who come from so many different walks of life, interests, and they got to write about their interests.
I just remember hearing, everyone was like full of adulation for a girl who won a Taekwondo gold medal in Thailand. She's one of 2 medalists at the Olympics in Tokyo just a month or 2 before, and everybody, it was front pages every newspaper, and people were donating stuff to her. She was getting jobs and stuff, and good for her, right? Good for her. And then we had the Paralympics, and we won. Thailand won 18 medals, and you didn't hear a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is like Thailand. It's not like the other countries in the world only send their worst Paralympians to the Paralympics. They send their best athletes, And so Thailand's best para-athletes competed with the best in the world and won. Yeah. And I just thought, well, how can that be? Why did they win when the able-bodied athletes were less successful?
Right.
And I just thought that'd be a fun story. But I got to say, you have to, if you get a chance to, we'll have it up online as well if you can't access, buying a copy, or we don't send you a copy for free. But if you can, have a read of that story. And we're going to put the magazine up on Flipsnack. And it is such a moving story, I tell you. That writer did a brilliant job.
Yeah.
When I kind of edited it, and as I was going through it, I was actually quite moved. Here's spoiler alert. Why did they get so many medals? Because they practiced like mad for a year in the Olympic facilities, which were closed because of COVID. They locked themselves in there, and these blokes on wheelchairs were belting around the track, sort of 18 hours a day, until they became super athletes.
Exactly.
There was no kind of hidden mystery to it. They worked hard.
Yeah.
And they deserved, in my mind, accolades. I could never get why J5, the street food restaurant, is such a kind of darling media sensation. So Michelin gave this street food restaurant called J5 a 1 star. And it was kind of part of the deal, I think, they did with the TAT when they did this multi-million-dollar sponsorship to bring Michelin into Thailand. And she won the lottery. I think they had to find one street food restaurant. They found hers. She wears goggles. She flame torches crab omelets. You have to wait for 2 or 3 hours. They cost a fortune. And people just think, well, that's it. If I've been to J5, I've enjoyed Thai street food. And, we saw recently Russell Crowe here filming, the video and taken for the obligatory photo shoot at J5.
Yeah.
Give me a break. There are dozens of better street. No offense to J5, but there are definitely better. There are definitely better street food restaurants in Thailand than J5, and they're equally authentic as hers. And you don't need to queue up for hours. You don't need to pay $1,000 for a dish. And they're packed with local people. And I love that story we've done on, I think it's 10 or 12 best street food restaurants, or 10 of the 12 of the best in Thailand. Again, it kind of addresses my sense that it's just not fair. Why would this one street food restaurant get all of the accolades, and yet, and every international media brand that comes in has to do a story on J5 as if it's all that Thailand has to offer. Far from it. Read our story, and you will get 10 or 12 better recommendations on where to go across the country. What do you think? Have we sold it to you now that print is still important, or are you still a little bit out on the fence on that one?
Well, here's the thing, right? Koktail Magazine, of course, a media brand in this day and age would have the full suite of digital offerings. We have our social media, we have videos, we have podcasts, of course. We have our website with stories on it. But why do we also have print in this day and age when, you know, digital is clearly the way to go? Well, I kind of see it as there's really a lack of, you know, quality conversations in English language, specifically in Thailand. And I think people still actually crave for good content, good long form pieces, and they would love to have a print magazine. It's not monthly per se, but our magazine's quarterly, that they can have in their homes and read for a few months. You know, that there's truly a lack of that, and people have expressed that, you know, where's all this like good English language magazine in Thailand, right? I think it shows that the community is really here. And there's a big difference between print and digital, obviously. And I think you mentioned that, or you mentioned a little bit about digital age and content in your piece in the magazine.
Yeah.
And how it's a flawed model as well, right? Even though I'm in digital clearly, and I do believe in digital, I you know, I'm a millennial. I say that in the editor's note as well. You know, there's a lot of distraction as well in digital content, and I think there is an appreciation for content that is slower and more crafted, takes a longer time to make, and that's basically this book right in front of me. Do you think magazines do wrong?
What did they do wrong?
Yeah. What do you want to avoid doing, I guess?
What should we avoid doing? Oh, wow. I think, yeah, you know, that's such a good question. What did they do wrong?
I mean, I want to ask you this because of your experience in the industry and how you've seen it evolve and seen, you know, also audience behavior evolve.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I was sort of thinking long and hard about an answer. I think magazines have to stand for something, right? You can be Vogue magazine, and you stand for fashion and quality in fashion, and now they stand for equality in fashion, and you know, and they're moving and trying to get with that. But you know when you're reading Vogue that it's completely immersed in the world of fashion. The people writing those magazines believe every single thing they're saying. You know, so I think every magazine has to be honest and truthful to what it's doing. But you've genuinely got to believe what you're doing is interesting. And what some magazines do that perhaps, you know, struggle to survive is they kind of just come out. You know, they've been there for a long time and they come out, and you know, they've always had, you know, they've always had this section goes there, this section goes there, we're going to talk about that, we've got a set lot of writers that do it. You know, they almost become formulaic, and you pick them up and you go, God, there's nothing to read in here. You know, so we all know we all know those magazines. You pick them up and you wonder why anyone would, and you know, the fact is people don't read them. So, you know, there's no free lunch. You know, you've got to have an audience. Right, you can't just print and say we have an audience. You have to have a genuine, real audience. You know, you've got to somehow. This brand has got to find an audience, and people have got to pick up and go, you know what, I agree with that, I disagree with that, I like that, I've got an idea for them, or I want to be part of it, and so on. And so I think you've really got to work hard to be truthful, and you've got to love it. You know, you've got to love the magazine you're working on. When that passion and that excitement goes out of it, you know, it's really just a chore.
Hopefully this has made you interested in our first issue, curious enough to perhaps pick up a copy, which will be available at Asia Books, but you could also obviously always drop into our DMs and ask for it. We can arrange to have it sent to you. But yeah, if you liked this podcast, this production, and you want to hear more cocktail conversations in the future, please subscribe to all our digital channels. Please like us. Please share us with your friends, and we'll be back again with some new cocktails, new location, and new conversations. Yeah, and thanks to the Sukhothai again. It's sort of sunset here. It looks like quite a nice place to hang around. So next time you're in Bangkok, if you're coming in from overseas, book the Sukhothai Hotel. Highly recommended. Take one of these cocktails as well. And we do hope you look at it. If you've got to the end of this podcast, there's probably going to be a link here somewhere to the magazine, right? Mm-hmm. It's a free download.
do download and do give us your comments. We'd love to hear those. And what could we do better? What did you like? What did you think of us?
And what would you like to read in future issues?
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks,
bye.
Mika.
Thanks. Bye, Nigel.